Hello and welcome back to the Pasta Podcast, where we will talk about nothing but pasta. Today we will not be talking about pasta. Today we'll be rating our most emotional movies. I, of course, am a pasta chef. My name is Gigi. What's your name, fellow pasta chef?
My pasta chef name is Olivia. Nice to meet you.
Is that also your normal name? Or just your pasta chef name?
Yeah. Okay. We have a lot of movies to go over. I I get very emotional very easily. So we're gonna try to not make this a 3 hour long episode. So we'll see
Yeah.
how that goes. But I did alternate that me and Gigi's, so it'll be like one Gigi's, one mine, and then at some point it'll just be all mine. Um, so yeah. All right.
Yeah,
So
Olivia
should we
watches
start?
a ton more movies. Yes, you can start.
I saw like my letterbox of this year. I've watched 27 movies this year.
I've watched like 3, so that's good
It's
for you.
Gigi, we're not even 3 months in. Um, so our first movie we have is the movie Coco. And I do want to say, as we're starting, S tier should be the most emotional. F tier is the least emotional. Because it's not, these are all movies we like, obviously, or else we wouldn't be talking about them. So we're not
Yeah.
rating them on a scale of like best movie to worst movie. It's just like least emotional to most emotional.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um, I do like Coco. I've seen it a lot because my nephew went through that phase for like months of only watching Coco. Every time I went to their house, they were playing Coco, you know?
mhm.
He has a new hyperfixation movie that he made me watch. And that is the third or fourth movie that I've seen this year because I put it on my letterbox because I was like, if I had to sit through it, then I guess I gotta rate it, you know? But anyways, Coco, the first time I saw it, I thought it was a really good movie. I thought that like the animation and everything was good, but I think that the way that they told the story was pretty emotional. I don't know, when he sings his version of "Remember Me," it makes me so sad, especially compared to like the guy who stole the song and sings it like like a
Mhm.
big song, but then you
Um,
hear his version
yeah,
and it's
I
sad.
do want to say that I think that with that movie, um, in particular, it's like the story itself isn't really an emotional story, but it's like just the parts of it are emotional. Um, like it's not like sad or anything that he's singing to his grandma. Like who cares, or his great grandma or whatever. But the fact that he's singing to his grandma, so his uh great great grandfather isn't forgotten. That's what's very sad.
Yeah.
So I would put this in A tier. I think it's very sad. Do I think it's the most sad I've ever been in a movie? No.
Yeah. I don't think it's a super sad movie, but I do get pretty emotional. And I usually say like, "Hey, if it made me tear up, then like pretty emotional. If it made me cry, that's one of the most emotional movies I've ever seen." Cuz I'm not an easy crier. So yeah,
Hmm.
A tier.
Okay. A tier for Coco. Next movie I have is a very particular movie. It's Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Men Tell No Tales. This is the fifth movie. The reason I put this in is because I there's one scene at the end. I mean, the whole movie itself is like not very emotional because it's a Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Um, but the whole story of Barbosa finding his daughter and not telling her that that's his daughter, and then at the end, when they say, he says something like, she's like, she figures out that that's her father, and she goes, "Who am I to you?" And he looks at her and he goes, "Treasure." It gets me
Like
every time.
here's the thing. Is part of me is like that's so corny because they're pirates and everything, but then the other part of me is like shut up Gigi, I'm trying to enjoy the movie. I think that when people say that's so corny in like a movie, unless it's like cringe corny, I think that that's a good thing. Having a
Hmm.
corny movie is nothing bad. Um, but yeah, I think that that part is so emotional, especially because R.I.P. Barbosa, because he dies, and he dies
Yeah.
for her, and that's really like it's a very full circle thing for Barbosa's character in the first place. Because in the first movie he's the villain, and in
Hmm.
the last movie you're like, I don't want you to die. How did we
Hmm.
get here?
Exactly. So
So
I think, I mean, it's a really good movie. Is it that emotional? No. Is the last part emotional? Yes. So I think that I would put it in D because it's not really, it's like the movie's happy.
yeah, but that one scene, man.
That one scene, though. A lot of these, it's going to be that one scene.
Yeah.
All right. Next one. We have Doctor Who: A Christmas Carol. This is all you, Gigi.
I tried not to put too many Doctor Who stories on here because I was like, there it has to be one or two. Like I can't do more than three because if I'm like one more, then I'm like, why not one more? Like it's gonna keep going, and you're not gonna understand what I'm talking about. I watched this movie. I mean, well, it's not a movie; it's a special, but it's a movie long special. It's like an hour long movie. Um, so I watched this. I rewatched it for the first time in years. December 2022, I think. Because I was doing a little Christmas special, um, like little run. So I was
Yeah.
rewatching all of the Christmas specials for Doctor Who. Um, and I watched this one going into it being like I hated this one. I watched it the first time. I hated it the first time I watched it, and I don't remember why, genuinely, because there's no part that I hate now. Because I rewatched it and I cried at the end. I cried. Because the ending, it's all very sad because it's a story about this old man who is like rich. um, and he's like cut himself off from like humanity because he's rich. And
So
the doctor has
the Christmas Carol.
yeah, and the doctor has to go back in time and fix him. That's actually kind of what happens. He goes back in time and he teaches him like, not to be like his father because he makes like a little vlog the old man does as a kid. Um, and he makes the old man watch it, the doctor does, and then he goes back in time and he shows up on the film. And then he's watching himself make new memories while also remembering the new memories. Um, and there's this girl that he thinks is very pretty. And they have this like system where the dead people are like frozen on ice, but they can let them out to live for a day like 5 times or something. So they let her out um, until she has one more day left to live. Um, and then after that, he like completely turns on the doctor and he's like, I don't like you anymore. And I can't let her out because if I let her out, then she's gonna die. And that's where the movie kind of like starts because it's her family being like, um, I just want one more Christmas with my sister. Please give me that. And he's like, no, I can't. Um, but it's because he doesn't want to let her out because he's grown attached to her. And in the end, they have to let her out so that she can fix something. It's a very emotional scene because earlier in the movie, she sings to the fish to make it sleep because it was like a shark that was going to attack them. And she comes out and she sings, and the shark falls asleep. And they find out that she can control the fish. So she's Poseidon, basically. Um, and she
Aquaman.
sings, and she sings. So he has to let her out, and he lets the doctor let her out for the last night that she can live. And she sings, and it is the most emotional song I've ever heard. Do I remember all the lyrics? No. But the sound of her voice, and then also looking at the old man, even though, like, he's old now, like 50 years has passed. Like last time she saw him, he was 20. Um, but it's a very emotional scene, especially knowing that she's like dead like this is her last day on Earth. She's gonna
Mm.
drop dead at midnight. So it's very emotional and sad. But I would rank it at least like B tier because it's not the most sad the whole movie, but it did make me cry at the end. So
Oh yeah. All right. Thank you, Gigi.
yes,
B tier.
autism rant
Moving
over.
on. Okay. The next movie I have is The Notebook. Um, the first time I watched this, I consistently cried throughout the whole movie.
I've never seen it, so
It's a great movie. I'm not going to go into detail about it for time's sake, um, but it's basically a story of a man who's trying to get his wife who has Alzheimer's to remember him. And he's telling the story of, like, he's reading her this book, which is like this book that he wrote about their relationship. And he reads that to her every day and tries to get her to remember him. And at the end of the movie, she remembers him and she doesn't want to forget him, so they die together.
um, that's that's a crazy development.
I'm putting it in A tier. It's so sad. It's
You know
literally
what
like
that
I cry the whole time.
that's crazy. Um, yeah, that sounds very sad. I I don't know if I would cry watching that, but I would definitely have some tears that I would be like, no, it's not emotional. It's not emotional at all.
It's just like one of those movies where like I don't expect it to get me. Because it's like it's stereotypical, like, oh yeah, I cry when watching The Notebook. But it's like, geez, it's really
Yeah,
sad. It's like it hits you like a ton of bricks. Like you don't expect it. It just happens. And it's
yeah.
Ryan Gosling and Rachel McAdams, so what's not to love? And also James Marsden. All right, moving on. The movie Brave.
Oh, yes.
Well,
This I don't know if you've seen it recently.
I haven't seen it recently, but I remember it pretty well.
Um, but the whole movie makes me want to cry. And it's because I think that stories about like mothers and daughters make me cry a little bit because I've been through so much with my mother and it makes me like sad to think about.
Claire,
Um,
you just reminded me of something. I need to add two more movies. Keep talking.
okay. Um, but the only reason that it makes me like hold back tears is the ending. It's usually the ending with these types of movies, but it's when, you realize that she um like her mom's not coming back from being a bear and that she's going to be a bear forever and she's saying all this stuff and being like, I'm sorry, I never should have done that. I forgive you. And I love
Mhm.
you. And it's so emotional. And then, she comes back because it's a Disney movie. So she has to.
Yeah.
Um, it's not an old Disney movie, though. It's not like Bambi. She didn't just die. um, Plus, that only ever happens in the beginning. So, um, but yeah, also, there is a part where when they first have an argument, where it kind of reminds me of like an actual mother and daughter fight where like the queen has been making this quilt of them and Merida says she'd rather die than be like her and she rips the tapestry that she made. And then out of anger her mother throws her bow into the flames and then Merida leaves and then the mother realizes what she's done and she tries to get out and she can't fix it and both of them end up like crying and it's such a sad scene because I feel like every mother and daughter have had a fight like that, where
Mhm.
both of them have done something bad and both of them realize it and recognize it and they don't know how to fix it. um
Yeah.
but yeah.
Um, I always forget how sad Brave is and how real it is. Um, but I mean, there's a lot of moments in that movie where I'm just like, yeah, this is really sad, but I'm not actively crying, if that makes sense. Like it's like
Mm,
emotional, but I like feel it, you know?
yeah.
I would put it in B. B
Yeah.
for brave.
Be for brave. We can't
Yeah, we're
start that
doing
again,
that
Olivia.
again.
We can't. We
We're doing
can't.
that again. All right. May we move on?
Yeah. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
This next movie is my movie. It's called When Harry Met Sally. I don't think you've ever seen this movie.
No.
Um, it's basically a long story of a man and a woman getting together over the course of like several, like a decade, I think. Like they keep meeting each other over, like back and forth, and it's like they keep having like these weird conversations that like the final time they meet, they like become best friends and they like fall in love. And so the only time I actually feel emotional in this movie is at the end when they finally get
Yeah.
together because it's very like hyped up, like you're like, come on, get together already, and they finally do at the end. And there's like, it's really sweet. There's like in between like each time jump, because there's a lot of time jumps in the movie. In between each one, there's like an elderly couple that tell their story of how they met, and it's really cute. But and this is one of my favorite movies actually. But do I think it's the most emotional movie I have? No. I think I would put it in E maybe.
E
Cuz
really?
E
After
just
all
cuz
that talking about it?
it's only that last scene that gets me emotional. The rest of it is hilarious. It's a rom-com. It's really funny. um so I think I'm going to put it in E. Just it's a really
Mm,
funny movie and that's what it's good at. You know, it's like yeah, it's only emotional like one part, really.
mm.
So, all right. Next one, we got Wally.
See, I put this one on here because I feel like the entire movie is just like so so sad for no reason. I mean, like there are some moments where like the sadness is warranted, but I feel like the idea
The
of
part
just
where
being
Wally
in
dies.
this shh, spoilers. Um
He
but
literally
like
straight up
the idea of like a dystopian world where all of like the humans left, but this one little robot is left on Earth to fend for himself. Um, and like he's still doing his job. That's just honestly, it's too real and it makes me sad. It just puts you in a sad atmosphere the whole movie. Um, and then the fat people on on chairs, on hoverboard chairs. Honestly, that's what I want to be when I die.
dies.
I've got one
I
of them.
think
I just need the hoverboard chair.
honestly, this movie is so good, and I haven't watched it in a while, but I think the part of the movie that gets me the most is the end, which is
Yeah.
seems to be a lot of the case. Not the end where they finally make it back to Earth, but the end where Eve fixes him using all the parts that was in his little place. Oh, it's so sweet.
I know. The love story of a century, honestly.
Literally, I love they them.
Them.
What would you rank this, G?
um I'd say solid A actually cuz like I don't think there are a lot of moments where I'm not emotional.
A solid A. Wow. I I want to bring it to B. I'm sorry. It is a very emotional movie. Do not get me wrong. It does get me. But I think the whole movie is kind of silly. Like there it's
Okay.
silly. Can I bring it
What
to
what's so
B?
silly? What is so silly about
Do
fat
I think
people
it's
on
Coco
hoverboard
sad?
chairs,
No.
Olivia?
Do I think Wally is Coco sad? No. I think Coco's sadder than Wally.
Well, this isn't sadness, it's just about emotional. But yeah, emotional is mostly sad.
Okay, I'm putting it in
Elah.
B.
I love Elah. That's my favorite movie.
Okay, next one. Oh, you've never seen this, but you should. And I tell you this often. In fact, I was watching this movie the other day. Um, it's called DDLJ. It's actually called Dilwali Dilhania Lejayangi. Um, it means the bold-hearted gets the bride. Um, if any, if there's anybody out there who knows anything about Indian movies, they know this movie. This is the Bollywood movie of all time. It's like, um, and it makes me. I was watching it the other day, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is so much." But honestly, is it the most sad? No, I wasn't really crying. Um, but I do think that it I like watching that movie puts me in such a mood. Like it puts me in such like a good mood. It's like one of those movies that's like fun to watch. And
Yeah.
it's there's so many parts of it that it's just like it's so silly. It's so like um it's so different than a lot of Bollywood movies that especially Shah Rukh Khan was in before this because he like did all action movies and they were all very violent and every time he fell in love with somebody he would try to yeah, he would try to like hurt them. And this was like the
Me
first
when I
movie where
love
he's just
somebody.
like he's just like the love interest the whole time and it's great. And it's like why doesn't he always do this? But I want to put it as B tier cuz it's pretty it's pretty good. I don't know what else to say. Okay. Next movie is The Truman Show. I've never seen this.
Okay, so let me walk you through this. Another dystopian type of world where everybody is lying to you. Everybody's lying to Truman. Literally, everybody's lying to Truman. And I gotta tell you, I know that this movie is like kind of funny, but there is like, it's also got like a little bit of a horror aspect because you know when everybody's lying to you, like they're, it's just a little scary. Um, but it makes me emotional for most of the movie because I like the beginning of the movie. He doesn't know, you know. Um, but then you learn a little bit about like his life in this fake world. Also, he was adopted by this TV show. He wasn't like kidnapped or somebody. They bought this baby for this TV show, and they started the TV show with his birth. It's a crazy movie. um, but anyways, so like learning about his life, like his high school years, he had an actual love interest. And she tried to tell him, "Hey, you're in a TV show," but she couldn't really tell him that. And they found out like where on set she was because it's a giant set. Um, and they took her away and they, um, fired her. Um, but he secretly has been searching his whole life to find her, um, even though he has a wife, even though he has a scripted wife. And anyways, so that makes you emotional. He also, the whole premise of the reason that he stays inside of this world, this set, is that it's a giant set, but it's surrounded by water, and they needed a reason for him to not want to go to sea and be afraid of the sea, so they killed off his father. So they like made a fake set where they went off into a boat and then his father drowned during this storm. And that's how they it's a psychological torture and it's so emotional because you're like you know it isn't real but he doesn't know it's real and he's like 8 years old. um and it's crazy and at the end when he finds out like what everything is, he finally like gets over that fear because he's like that wasn't real. He's like met his father and everything. um but they make like a fake storm that actually could hurt him. um and they just like don't stop the storm even though he's still gonna like keep like moving, and he finally hits the wall and he finds stairs, and like the creator of everything starts talking to him and he's like, "This is the perfect world. I made it for you. like, I did all of this for you, which is a total lie. And then he ends it with his catchphrase, which is, in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, after he says good morning. Um, and then he leaves and he goes to run to find the, actress that they fired, and that's the end of the movie. And it is such an emotional movie throughout the whole thing. It's not the one that I would put on if I was like, I wanted to make you cry, but it is the
Hmm.
one that I would put on if I wanted to cry. Because
I
it's
get that.
like it's like a happy cry. It's not really like a sad cry, but it's a
It's
happy
like a
cry at the end
relief.
because you're like, yes, he got out and like he, prevailed. And also all of his like fans that have been watching this show are also happy for him. So like, I don't know, it's a messy movie because
Yeah.
it's like you guys could have told him somehow. Um,
Where would you put it?
but anyways, I would put it at least. I would put it in C tier because it's
Me too.
not it's not the most funny
It's more
movie.
like a
I
comfort
think
movie, huh?
it's more a comfort movie for me, but I also like I would put it on if like my niece Aubrey, she really likes watching horror movies, and I don't like watching horror movies. But if I was going to be like, "Hey, do you want to watch something that's kind of psychological horror?" I would maybe put this one on because it's not bad, but it's kind of like everything is fake, it's kind of weird. So,
Hmm.
C tier, because I
Okay.
would I would classify it more as a horror comedy than a
Because
emotional movie.
it's like creepy, kind of.
Yeah,
Mm.
because like there are scenes where he is discovering that things are wrong, and his wife has to be like smiling the whole time, but she's absolutely terrified because he's gone off the deep end because he doesn't know what's real. And
Yeah.
nobody will help her because they can't. Because how would they do that without telling him that it's a show? Anyways,
Yeah.
so see here.
Um, my next movie is called J.S. by Jordar. Um, this is another Bollywood movie. Um, every time, if I ever need to cry, I watch this movie. Um, I
It's a long
I don't
cry.
think it's not that long of a movie. I think it's like 2 hours long, or like an hour and 45. Like it's not long. Um,
Short one.
but it's basically about this like village where they're trying to have like, okay, so the main character, his name is Jayesh Bai, or Jayesh. Um, and he has a daughter with his wife. His wife is pregnant again, but she's had 6 abortions because they haven't been able to get a son. They've only been able to have daughters. And in the village, you're not allowed to have your second born as a son or as a daughter. So you have to have a son. And if you don't have a son, then you have to get it aborted and try again. So she can't have another abortion or else she'll die. And so like she has to have this baby, or like she just can't have another abortion. Like it's like too bad. It's like terrible on her body or something. And so yeah, it's he's basically fighting for the life of his daughter, and it's a really sweet movie. And there are some parts in it that are just so ridiculous and so absurd, and like not in a sense of like bad writing, in a sense of like you just hate these characters so much. Like how can you be that bad of people? And he's like trying to do everything for his wife. He's trying to like he wants like he just wants her to be happy, and he doesn't want her to be sad. And he's trying to do all this for the sake of his daughter. And there's like one part of the movie where, because he loves his wife a lot, but they don't really show much affection towards each other. And there's a whole part of the movie where he goes into, because all these women are super oppressed in this village, so they have this little circle that they cry in, and like at night where nobody can see them, and the saddest person is in the middle of the circle. And there's just a part where he talks about how he just wants her to show affection towards him because he loves her so much. And he starts crying and everybody huddles around him. It gets me every time. I watch this with my mom. We're sobbing. um, so I would put this movie in um in A tier. Is that loud?
No, it's fine.
No, that's fine. Okay. It makes me very sad, and I need to
What am I
watch it
gonna
with you.
say?
It's a really good movie. I
I
know.
say no. No, because when
Okay.
I watched it, which I didn't like it.
I'll let you have this one. It's Coraline. I've seen Coraline a long time ago, but I don't like Coraline, so I'll let you talk on it.
Okay, this one, it's not like gonna be a high rated one, but it does make me a little emotional because there's a scene where she finally like defeats the other mother, and I'm assuming everybody knows what Coraline is, so I'm not gonna explain it. Where she defeats the other mother and she gets back home and she locks the door and she can't get her, but then her parents are gone. And that terrified me as a child and made me so sad for Coraline because she's like crying. She recreates them using pillows and sleeps in their bed because she misses them so much. And then she has to set out to save them and go back to the other mother's like world. It's a whole thing. But that part in specific, it makes me so sad. Um, because I'm like, I don't know what I would do if my parents suddenly up and left, especially as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
um, very codependent over here. um, well, mostly with my mother. My dad is pretty distant already. um, love you though, Dad. I know that you're listening because you're our only fan. So, but yeah, I um but yeah, I think that that scene is emotional. The rest of the movie is not really emotional. um it does kind of come full circle with the mom and the daughter kind of getting along at the end, but they didn't really hate each other or anything before. It's just that the mom wasn't really being nice to her for some reason. um
Yeah.
so I would rank it like D tier, maybe
D.
E.
E. All right. E. Coraline.
E.
One scene. Huh?
Yeah, it's just the one scene. And it's honestly probably not sad for other people, so E.
All right. I've reached the image limit. I need to start over.
This is what I'm saying. Pixar, fix your fucking app. It should be able to load all of them. I'm sorry. Especially
No.
because like
Hold on. I
it
gotta
doesn't
add.
even it doesn't even say, "Oh, you need premium to use this many photos or anything." It just can't load that many. Why?
Mm-mm. And we're barely halfway through. So, all right. Next movie I have is Om Shanti Om. Um, this movie needs no introduction. It's actually a movie that Gigi has seen before, which is kind of great. Um,
Mhm.
this movie is funny, sad, funny, really sad. That's how this goes.
That's the order of operations. It's funny and then it's sad. It brings you to the depths, and then it's funny again. And then it's a little bit sad, and then it's funny, and then it's super sad at the end.
It's like, if I even think about that scene, I was watching it the other day. I was watching it so like background, like I wasn't really paying attention to it. I saw that one scene. Man, I don't even have to
It's
think
just,
about it. It's so sad. I
yeah.
want to put it in S tier.
You know what I think
Let me
is
know.
great about that movie is that it's got everything that you want in a movie. It's got it's got absolute pain. It's got absolute pain. It's got funny. It's got great comedy. It's got lovely catchphrases like "What the fish man." And it's got redemption. It's got redemption and revenge. It's got everything that you would need. It's like any moment that you're like, I'm not getting what I need out of this movie, you're not watching Om Shanty Om then. Like you're not watching the same
Exactly.
movie.
Do you think it belongs up so high?
I do. It's very emotional. Like
I'm
even just
glad.
for that one scene, even just for
Yeah,
that one scene, because it's
that
like, oh
one
my
scene.
god.
Oh my god! I have a movie later on in this list that I know I'm putting in S tier. You haven't seen it, but I'm putting it in S tier just because I and it does have Shah Rukh Khan in it. So let's see our next
He's just
movie.
been in a lot of emotional films as well as action films.
Yes, he has. All right, our next one is actually Gigi's last one, so I'll let her talk on this for a bit. It's Doctor Who: The Time of the Doctor. Did I get that right?
Yes, yes. So here's the thing: is that the time of the Doctor comes right after the Day of the Doctor, which the Day of the Doctor wraps up some of the Time War, which is the big giant thing that happens. It's a war between the Time Lords and the Daleks. Um, so it kind of wraps up that like moment, and he kind of gets a little bit redemption because it's like, oh, he didn't kill all of his people, he just froze Gallifrey, which means that they're still alive, it's just that they can't do anything because they're frozen. um but in the time of the Doctor, they kind of make a little U-turn, and this is a Christmas special too, um where they do mention Gallifrey again, but it's only when the time is right. um Anyways, I'm explaining it bad. They go to this planet because the um somebody somebody kid no, that's not what happened. That happened in a different special. Sorry. They all sound the same to me because it's the something of the Doctor, the other something of the Doctor, the other something of the Doctor. Anyways, they go to this planet, and they don't know what the planet's called, but the town is actually called Christmas, which is funny because the Doctor goes up to this couple and they're like, "What?" They're like, "Oh, what's the town called? It's Christmas. It's July. No, the town's called Christmas." Also, they can't lie, so there's a truth field on the planet. And then eventually the Doctor finds out that he's trapped there, and he has to send Clara away in the TARDIS. So he has no way of getting off this planet. And he finally asks the person that put him on this planet what the planet is called, and it's called Trenzalore, which he found out in earlier episodes, like way early on, like in season 5. This is season 7. Um, the name of that planet, and he found out that that's where his grave is later in life. So he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna die here." Um, so
Oh,
he stays here for years. He stays here for hundreds of years, until he becomes old man. And then you know what happens? Clara comes back because she put the key in the door of the TARDIS before it went away, but it just meant that the TARDIS moved really, really slow to try to come back to the Doctor. So, so yeah, and then she has to deal with him being an old man for a little bit, and then he mentions he's dying, and also the Doctor has like a little Cyberman head with him that he calls Handles. And he's like his little personal assistant in the episode, and Handles dies. He dies. And when he dies, he there's a callback to the beginning of the episode where the Doctor tells him to remind him to patch the telephone unit back to the console. Um, and as he's dying, he says, "I have a reminder. What is it? You must patch the telephone back through the console unit." And then he dies. And it's both funny and sad. And I'm so sorry. RIP Handles. I love you. Um, and then, the Doctor's like, "Hey, I'm also going to die because I'm out of regenerations." And then they had seen this crack in a wall, which again, from season 5, beginning of season 5, they introduced that. And they didn't know what it was. They just knew it was a split in time. Um, and then Clara asked the crack to help him because he's dying. And we find out that that is Gallifrey. And then the crack appears in the sky, and the Gallifreyans give him more regenerations. Um, and then the Doctor regenerates, and you know what happens? Well, you know who he regenerates into? He regenerates into Matt Smith again, actually. He resets his body, and then in the TARDIS he regenerates into Peter Capaldi. But yeah, that episode makes me teary eyed because I'm like, oh my god, the Doctor's dying, and then I'm like, oh my god, Peter Capaldi's coming. Like, everything's gonna be okay.
It's just like thing happened after thing happened.
Yeah, it just kept going. That episode, like everything is moving constantly in that episode. There is not one slow part. But yeah, it makes me sad, but it is definitely not the most emotional thing I've seen. And it's probably controversial to call it emotional. So I'd put it in like C tier because
Oh,
it still will make me cry, but I don't think it makes everybody cry.
yeah.
But also Peter Capaldi makes me cry just looking at him
All
in a
right.
good way.
See you for the Doctor
Yes.
Who another Christmas special.
Yeah, see for another Christmas special.
All right. Um, Next we are getting into the Olivia territory. I will try to make this as quick as possible. I have a lot though. So hold on to your seatbelts. You've seen this movie though, so you can have a word in this. This is Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, episode 3. My favorite Star Wars movie of all time, and many people can agree with me. Um, this movie makes me so emotional the whole time. I just like what's happening with Anakin, and then the Order 66 scene, and then the Obi-Wan him duel, and then Padme dies, and then it's just it's everything's crashing down on you, and you're like, why is this all happening right now? It's just
Let
like
me tell you.
curveball after curveball.
Let me tell you. We sat down to watch this movie. We watched all three of them in the same night, by the way.
That
So
was
it was like 1
crazy.
or 2 a.m. It was 1 or 2 a.m. when we went to bed. Um,
Hmm.
we sat down and watched this movie. I saw like, it's the ending scene, and I look over at Olivia and she is crying. She has tears in her eyes. She has been crying. And I
Gigi,
look over at
you
her and
have
she
seen
looks
this
over at me with
movie.
tears in her eyes and she says, I'm sad. Or she says, I'm crying.
Gigi, I have seen this. I have been watching this movie ever since I was like 3, 4 years old, and I have I've seen this movie many, many, many times, and that was the last time I saw it, and that was like what, a year ago. And I was still crying. That's gonna be a good movie when you've seen it enough times where you're still crying.
You know what my favorite part of that movie is? When he kills the younglings. Because he really didn't have to. He really didn't have to. They weren't gonna be able to defend themselves or
He really didn't
he
have
didn't
to.
he
He was
didn't
so
have
angry.
to. There was no reason. And they all, what are we
I
gonna
think
do?
everybody
I'm
can
gonna kill
agree.
you.
I think every Star Wars fan can agree that this is just a really emotional film. It's just like full
Yeah.
of emotion. Um, I want to put it in A tier.
Just stay here.
Do you think I should put it in S tier? S tier for Sith?
I don't know. It's got a lot of emotions. And I feel
You're right.
yeah,
S
it's
tier.
sad, but it's got so many emotions going on.
Mm-hmm. It does. It really does.
There's a lot of
Okay.
conflict. Anakin has a lot of conflict in his body in
There's
this episode. So
and you have to like sit through and just like watch him slowly turn into like Darth Vader. It's like, crazy. It's nuts. It's
yeah.
like it's such. I could drone on for hours about that movie, but I'm not going to. Okay, I'm putting it in S tier. You've convinced me.
Okay.
I was trying to be modest here, Gigi. Okay. Next one is Return of the Jedi. This is episode 6. As you can see, my favorites come in threes. Um, not real for the sequels, but for this one, yes. Um, but you haven't seen Return of the Jedi yet, have you?
No.
So I'll try
No.
not to spoil it too much because I still plan on watching it with you. Um, but a certain little green guy, he dies at the beginning of this movie, and it makes me so sad. Also, the ending is just like It's just like overwhelming. It's crazy because this movie is all of those first five movies combined into a conclusion. So it's like just overwhelming emotions going on. It's so much happening. This is actually a lot of people's this is actually not a lot of people's favorite Star Wars, which I mean, I don't really get that cuz I love this movie. It's like my favorite original. It's my favorite Star Wars movies go Revenge of the Sith and Return of the Jedi. Um is this movie full of quippy silly things? Of course. Is, is this movie as emotional as Revenge of the Sith? No. Is it very emotional? Yes. I think I will put it in A tier.
Okay.
I like how I'm just like putting all my movies in A tier.
You have one in B and maybe C, right?
I have one in D and one in E, so it's fine. It's
Yeah,
even
you've got range.
now. This next one you haven't seen before. It's Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. Um, this movie only makes me sad at one part, so I'm gonna put it in. I'm gonna put it in E tier because if I put it any lower, Lord of the Rings fans would get mad at me. And it's one part at the end where like they've made this whole journey. They've like had all these people's help on the way, and then they go and they bow to this king. I'm not good. You won't get it. They go and bow to this king, and the king says to him, I can't say it exactly because I don't know that movie that well, but he says, "My friends, you bow to no man." And it makes me really sad because I'm like, they've been through so much.
Was that just him coming out as a woman?
Yeah. Um, Next one I have Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. I was gonna say like part one and part two, but I honestly both of them. If I read the book, I'm crying the whole time. So C tier. Here I am just ranking by myself.
This is
Oh,
Olivia's lightning round pasta chef edition with
yeah.
also I am here.
Um, this is this is not going to be a lightning round. I'm going to sit down and explain this to you. Um, this next movie is the most I have cried in any movie ever.
So
Um,
it's S already.
it's S already. I watched it like literally like a few weeks ago, like 2 weeks ago. It's called Donkey.
Damn.
Yeah.
Ah.
It's called Donkey. It's basically this group of Indian people who want to go to England. Um, and so they have to get a visa, but they can't get a visa. And so they have to do it the hard way. And there's a part where this guy is trying to get his visa and he finds out he didn't get it because he's trying to meet his girl, this girl who he loves, but she went off and married somebody else, but that guy abuses her. And so she calls him and she's like, "You got to come and save me from this guy. I can't leave, and you got to come and get me because I can't leave." And so he's trying to get the visa to go to England to like save her, and then he like can't get it. He can't get it. And then like when he finally says that he's gonna go on like this illegal trip there, she calls him, or somebody calls her and said that she killed herself, and so he kills himself. And it's really sad. And then like and he goes out the hard way. He lights himself on fire. It's yeah, that's nuts timing, I know. But it's really sad. And then like they all um bring them all, so they go illegally to England. They go on like it's called Donkey, and hence the name of the movie. And it's very like it's a lot of people do this sort of thing in different areas, not just India to England. Um, but it's like 6 months of like this terrible situation that they're just placed in. Like they have to like walk underwater under night, and they have to like run through this desert where it's just a bunch of where it's like they have to go through Afghanistan, and so they get like shot at and they almost get killed, and then their friends get killed. It's terrible. And then they finally get to England after all this time, and Shah Rukh Khan falls in love with the girl that was there, and then they can't be there anymore. Like he doesn't want to be there. He hates being in England, and so he leaves, and he leaves her. And then there's like a huge time jump, and they're like old now, and he lives in India and she lives in England. And then and then he she wants to go back to India, and so she can't go back. She can't like get her visa again. Like it's a whole other problem. And so they create this whole scheme so that she gets deported back to India. And because she tells him like I'm dying, I want to die at home. And so he I don't know if I can say the ending because I might cry. But
We can
basically
get through
he
this.
I can do it. So basically he he tells her that he waited for her his whole life, and she waited for him. And I can do this, Gigi. And then he proposes to her and she passes away as he's proposing to her. She says I do, and then he turns around and then she's dead. I'm putting an
Oh.
S tier.
By the way, everybody, she's not faking. She. I can see Olivia's face. She's genuinely crying. She's upset.
The soundtrack of this movie, I
SS
can't
tier.
get to see it.
SS plus tier. SS plus tier.
I told you, this is the most I've cried in any movie. I'm not kidding.
I can see that.
Okay, lightning round Olivia. Hold on, let me blow my nose.
This is exactly how Olivia looked at the end of Revenge of the Sith, by the way. She looked at me like this.
Okay, lightning round. Kaho Naho. Shah Rukh Khan has a heart problem. He falls in love with a girl, but he can't be in love with her because he's gonna die. So he loves her so much that he wants there to be enough love for her left when she dies. So she gets him to fall in love with another guy, and they get married, and he dies happily. And then
Wow.
he says at the end, "You got her in this life, but the next life she'll be mine."
Iconic.
Mm-hmm. Kaho Naho. Be tear. Oh, Rogue One. Anytime I want to cry, I watch this movie. It's very emotional, but I'm putting in B tier too, because I was gonna say like it's only really the last scene, but no, there's a lot of scenes in that are just oi. We'll have to
Oi.
watch that one too. That's like kind of a precursor to A New Hope. So we can watch A New Hope and then we can watch that because it'll make more sense. Dev
Okay.
does. This this is a movie full of great looking people. Um and it's really I was not expecting to cry, but I was. So I'm gonna put it in C tier because it's only really sad like at that like towards the end. Okay, and then Blue Beetle.
Ooh.
You know this one.
Um.
Um, I get really sad over the part with him kind of like in the in between where he's and then he sees his father. That's what gets me. And
Ooh.
when his father dies.
Yeah. You know what gets me is that when Chiroprax sees his mother telling him
Chiropract?
to come home. Yeah, it is sad
Chiropract.
because he
Chiropract.
realized
Yeah, that part is
I
sad.
don't know because he realized what everything he's been through. So and then he's like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to see you again. So I think it's kind of sad. Um, C B tier.
B for Blue Beetle.
B for movie.
There's a lot of B tiers, and I'm not ashamed of it. And I've reached my limit
Yeah.
again. Barbie.
Barbie. I
I was caught
there
crying
are parts where I
in that scene when she is talking to her creator.
do. Yeah, I don't remember her name right now.
Me neither.
The creator. Um, yeah, I'd say C tier.
I would
I
say
want to
C
rate it
too.
B tier because Barbie, but C.
But it's not that emotional. It's more just like, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
it's like it's like yeah, that's sad, but I'm not like sad over it, for most parts.
Mhm. Um, okay, so C tier for Barbie. Next one I
Mhm.
have is Robne Bana di Jodi. This makes my mom cry like crazy every time I watch it with her. Um, it's basically a guy trying to get his wife to fall in love with him. I know it sounds stupid.
No, I
But
think you
it
told
is,
me about this one, right?
yeah, it's my mom's favorite movie. Um, and we do have to watch this at some point. Maybe we'll watch it when we get together next.
Maybe.
It's a really good movie. It's really funny too. I'm gonna put it in A tier because it does get the floodgates. It does open the floodgates. It really does. Okay. Next one I have is Jawan. This is another Shah Rukh Khan movie. Um, was it make it makes me really sad with very specific parts, but it is mostly just like a movie you watch and you're like, whoa, that's so cool. Because it's like it's an action movie. um, so I think I'm gonna put this in C.
Okay.
No, I'm putting it in B. I'm putting it in B. I forgot that one
Oh.
scene. I forget that one scene. Uh, um, Next I have is the Batman. Have you ever seen this?
No.
Um, it's I. It's a great movie. It's one of my favorite movies. I have a poster for it on my wall. Um, it's my favorite Batman movie of all time. Um, the only part I really get sad at is at the end when he's like this whole movie he's trying to figure out like what being Batman is and like what it means and stuff, and he finally figures it out at the end and it's like really emotional. But it's only that last scene, and the first few times I've seen that movie I did not cry. I only cried one time while watching it, so I am it's one of my favorite movies of all time, but I'm putting it in F tier.
F for favorite.
F for favorite.
Rob Pat Bat.
If we post this tier list without context, people are gonna be like, "What the heck?"
Why is
People,
the
yeah, go
Batman
on.
an F tier?
Encanto.
Ooh. Um, I don't know. It's not
I
I only get say a thing.
Yeah, um, I whenever I watch Encanto, I feel like Mirabelle is me, and I'm sure a lot of people do. Like that's why she's created to be a relatable character. But she is one of my, and I gotta write that down. She's one of my "that's so me" characters. Like I just see her and I say me. Like I'm like that's me. Um, so I think that's a lot of the reason why I get emotional, and like also her grandma like accepts her and mine doesn't. So I think I'm projecting.
Yeah. One day. One day your grandma will be dead.
Cut that.
Okay. Um but yeah, I think that part where her grandma finally accepts her is very sweet. I also get a little bit teary-eyed when the whole town comes to help them rebuild their house.
Mhm. When she puts the
Maybe
doorknob
that's
on.
me projecting. Maybe that's me projecting.
I want to put it in C tier because it's really good. It's like that part when she's like looking at the doorknob and they say like this is for you.
Hmm.
It's the floodgates. The
Yeah.
waterworks are going. C tier.
Yeah.
It's a good movie. I like that movie a lot.
Is a
Soul.
movie.
Soul.
I've never
Have
seen
you
this
watched
one.
Soul?
No.
It's so sad, but not in a sad way. It's like in a happy way. Um, I guess it's really emotional then. I want to put this in A tier. It's there's just one part at the end of the movie because the whole entire it's a very existential movie, but there's one part at the end where he's like looking over his life and like what he did in his life, and he like feels at peace with it, and it's like really it's just really emotional because you feel really happy for him and you're like because he's trying to like you're kind of like that's what the meaning of life is. It's just to live it. It's just to be happy with what you have, sort of thing. And that's kind of the
Yeah.
main theme of the movie is like be happy with what you have, don't take things for granted. And it's just like one of those like realizations that he has where he's like I've been happy this whole time. I don't need other stuff. So I want to put it in A tier.
He's got
You gotta watch
soul.
that movie.
I'm too scared too because everybody says it's sad.
It's not sad. It's like it makes you cry. It's really it's just satisfying. It's like you feel really good for him. Like you don't watch that movie and at the end you don't feel sad about anything. You just feel like very like fulfilled, I'd say.
Yeah, but that's my least favorite kind of movie is when they make me cry and it's a happy cry because I don't know how to happy cry. So when it happens, it's like, what is happening to my body? I'm supposed to be sad, but I'm not sad. So,
You just don't know what to think. All right. I have Titanic. Have you ever seen this movie?
no.
Um, surprisingly, yep. Um, but surprisingly, um, this movie is is one of my favorite movies. I it's really sad towards the end, but you just kind of want like and it's one of those like token sad movies that you watch, but I think a lot what's really sad is that you're not kind of really sad for them as a couple because you know she had it going before she still has it going. He was going to be nowhere in life, let's be real. um and so I think what's the saddest part of the movie is they show individual people's experiences during the drowning, and they do show, and if you ask somebody what part of Titanic did you cry at, they will say the one scene where there's the old couple in that are hugging each other as they're drowning. That will just like burst, you'll just burst into tears. And there's also like a scene where her mother's putting her baby to bed as they're drowning, and it's just like those tiny little scenes that are just like woo. But really their story, it's like who really cares about Jack?
I
I mean,
don't
I
care
think
for
Rose had
Leonardo DiCaprio,
it
and I will say it right now.
Rose had it going the whole time, and it shows you like she's a girl boss because after like at the end of the movie they show you like pictures, and she went out and did all this stuff with her life, and it's all the stuff that they talked about together, but she went out and did that. She was successful and she got married afterwards. So um
I really needed
i'm,
Jack.
I'm putting it in D tier because it's not really their story that's sad, it's those individual scenes. um we're getting to the end here. I promise two more. This next movie is called Oh Baby. It's a Telugu movie. Um, and it's this old woman who um, like turns into her young self. And so she kind of like like gets to like relive the past that she never got, sort of thing. Um, she kind of she because she's like an old fart, she's an old grouch, and then like when she gets young again, she's like she's the exact same way, and she's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be like that. Maybe I should like respect my family. um, and there is a scene where she's singing this song, and it's talking about like the hardships she went through when she was young, and that part is really sad. This whole movie though is very sad. I would put it in B tier for baby.
Baby.
B for baby. Okay. Um, last one, grand finale. Um, this this is called the Joy Luck Club. Have you ever seen this movie?
No.
Um, it's my mom made me watch it when I was young and I didn't really get it, but I recently rewatched it with her and I was like, it hit me like a ton of bricks. You were talking about mother and daughter stories, so this is what I thought of. Um, it's basically um, this daughter who is actually it's Ming Na Wen who plays Mulan. Um, so paint the picture in your head of who's the speaker here. But she's the main character and she's the daughter. Her mother had this whole had a bunch of friends and they all played mahjong together. And so this is kind of like it takes place, the whole family's together, but her mother recently passed away. So she kind of took her place and she's playing mahjong with these women and they're telling her they're kind of like talking about the story of their lives and like how they got to where they were. And it's just really, really depressing. It's just like sad story after sad story. And the the saddest part of the story though is when they talk about how her mother had like she was trying to flee. There was something going on historically, I don't remember what it was. But they were there her town in China was getting bombed and so she had to flee and she had these twin babies at the time and she had to flee from China on foot carrying these two babies. And so like there was people getting diseases, there was all this, there was like famine, there was just all this like stuff going on, and she thought she was going to die, and so she leaves her babies at a tree, and she's like she like puts all her like jewelry and bracelets into like this little wrap in hopes that like somebody will come and take the babies and like they'll be paid with that sort of thing. And that's like the saddest part of the movie is when she leaves those babies by the tree. And then she obviously has her daughter later on in life. And then in the end of the movie, they tell her that they found the daughters and they're living and they're well. And so the last scene is her meeting them. It's really sad.
Wow.
um, I want to put this in S tier. It's really sad.
Okay.
Okay, and that, my friends, is the end of Olivia's lightning round that wasn't so lightning.
It was lightning enough for all those movies.
Yeah, it was a lot of movies. Do you want me to read over the entire tier list?
Go for it.
Okay.
I believe in you.
So in S tier, or wait, no, I'll start from the bottom. So in F tier, we have the Batman. In E tier, we have When Harry Met Sally, Coraline, and Return of the King. In D tier, we have Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales, and The Titanic. In C tier, we have The Truman Show, Doctor Who, Return of the wait, the time of the Lord. What's it called?
The Time of the Doctor.
The Time of the Doctor. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Devdas, Barbie, and Encanto. In B tier, we have Doctor Who, a, a Doctor Tale, a Doctor
A
Carol.
Christmas Carol.
Oh, dang it, it was the easy one. I thought it was going to be silly. We have a Doctor Who, a Christmas Carol, Brave, Wally, Dilwale Dilhania Le Jayangi, Kaho Naho, Rogue One, Blue Beetle, Jawan, and Oh Baby. A tier we have Coco, The Notebook, Jayesh by Jordar, Return of the Jedi, Rob Bana de Jody, and Soul. In S tier we have Om Chianti Om, Return of the Sith, Revenge of the Sith, Been speaking too much. Revenge of the Sith, Donkey, and the Joy Luck Club. Whew. I call it a success.
I had a snot bubble.
A little snuffle.
I had a snot bubble.
All right, JJ.
I
Any
breathed and it
final
went
words
bubble.
before we
Final
let them
words.
go?
Please remember me as I was when I was alive, wishing that I was dead. That's probably not what you thought I was gonna say as final. You asked for my final words. That's what I would want to say before I die. But
What I would want to say before I died is, rootin' tootin', ready for shooting.
no, you know what I would say? Hey guys, watch this, and then I would die.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for watching the Pasta Podcast. We love you very much. We miss you, our Pasta fam, and we hope you have a very good night filled with lots of pasta and love.
Stay safe and good night or something.